Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 9, I presume. Before we begin with this week's session, actually, so before we begin, I just want to remind you that I have posted for you a mid semester collaboration assessment, and this is going to remain anonymous, so you can share information about your collaboration with your peers. Um, uh, without risking anyone knowing but me, and I need to know about your assessment of the collaboration and of each other's work. And it's not like it's niching, it's just more like of an assessment of what everybody else is doing and how much are they contributing to the work, because as it always happens. Let me just stop this share and pin my video so people can see when I'm talking. So, as with every single collaboration, it always ends up being a little bit uneven between members of the same group, and sometimes some people get a free ride. In order to find out about the dynamics of your collaborations and everything else that's going on with your groups, I have created an assessment form, and I would really appreciate it if you can fill it out ASAP as soon as possible, so I can maybe, if you have some issues or anything, I can meet with you and sort it out. It's also very good for me to see how to plan future assignments, not just for you, but for future classes. This way, I can design assignments in such a way where I'm reducing this freeloading issue for people. Now, how do you find where this assessment thing is? I have placed the link on the first page all the way here at the end. It's called Mid-Semester Collaboration Assessment. I will also send it to the WhatsApp group so you can access it through your phone. I have created 4 or 5 sections of assessments. For each one, you enter the name of the person you're assessing and you enter the information. However, after, I think the second one, I think the first two are mandatory, or the first three. Yeah, the first two are mandatory, and then after that, it depends on the number of people you have in the group. You can skip the sections and submit the assessment. If you have any issues with the assessment, with the way it's designed, there are certain problems with it, you cannot submit, etc., etc., please let me know so I can fix it. Now we are in week 9, and this week we're going to go over um, planning an argument and organizing our ideas and generating an outline. I'm going to stop the share for a second because I need you to see my face as I'm talking about this. This is a very important week. Remember when I told you that the research question is the most important thing in research? Yes, research question focuses your research, it focuses your ideas, it brings it down, funnels it down to one thing you want to work on. Okay, you have a question that has been plaguing your head, you want to find an answer to it, and you write it down and you say, I'm going to find the answer to this, I'm going to solve this riddle for myself. We are curious human beings by nature. We start asking questions as early as age 2 and we don't stop. So the research question is very, 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 very important. Whether you are writing one single paper, whether you're writing a big research, whether you're writing a master's thesis, whether you're writing a dissertation, whether you're writing working on an engineering project, whether you are writing a book, you always have a research question. One question. Yes, one question, whether it's any of these projects that you embark on answering. Okay, now this question might have sub questions within it, but for your research paper, you only have one question. And then comes the thesis statement. The thesis statement tells you exactly what you are working on. Now, sometimes, especially with research papers, we start off with a tentative research thesis statement, and this is because our thesis statement might change depending on what research yields for us. So if you're looking through the databases and we find certain articles that are telling us about the research from one angle, and we discover that, you know what, I really need to include this idea, and so you integrate it into your thesis statement and you change it. So you change the arguments, the three arguments or the three controlling ideas of your thesis statement. Now, I'm not saying that this is how you always write a research paper, but this is sort of like the general way that is sort of like applicable to almost everything, sort of like one size fits all. But I don't want you to take this as dogma. It might change depending on your major, it might change depending on your research, it might change depending on your discipline as well, whether you're in the humanities, the social sciences, or the natural sciences, or the hard sciences. And So it's not like it is a one size fits all, but at the same time, be open to change, be open to whatever your professor tells you to do. But in general, if you're just asked to write a research paper and it is, something bordering on something in the social sciences, you can follow this. So when you start doing your research, you might change a little bit in the thesis statement, but the thesis statement really, really, really helps you focus your ideas. You are no longer all over the place. And this is why every time from now until we submit the final draft, every time you have an assignment, I tell you, rewrite your research question and rewrite your thesis statement, because you need reminding of what you're working on. What are you searching for? What are you working on? What are your arguments? So it's very, very important to keep reminding yourself of your tentative thesis statement. It remains a tentative one until you've submitted your paper and at the end. So you might find things to change in it, like a word here, a word there. Like for example, you might find that, for example, one of the things that you're working on in your thesis statement is difficult to study. Like, for example, I'm going to give you one example. For example, if you're reading something and you want to talk about mood, like you're studying how bots, for example, uh, uh, react to certain posts and whether they display any change or shift in mood, like they become aggressive. Of course, it depends on how they're programmed, but they also can somehow reprogram themselves in one way or another. You want to study this, you have to read a lot on mood and writing and research in the area. It might be very, very difficult. So you decide, I don't want to study this. It might be a little bit too complicated. So you go back and you change it. You eliminate the word mood. I don't know if this is a clear example. I'm trying to think of something else. Oh, like for example, some of you have written in your tentative thesis statements that you're going to study the psychological, economic, and physiological effects of A on B. And then as you're doing your research, you discover I've taken on a lot. So let me reduce this. Let me focus on only one and expand that one point and not talk about all three by just scraping the surface. I want to delve deep. I want to go more in depth into my um, um, subjects. So I'm going to eliminate two and leave one, talk maybe only about the psychological effects of A on B, and then psychological effects, break it down into three manageable steps. Now, do you have any questions on any of what I've just said? If not, we can carry on.
I have a question.
Yes,
So if we do change our thesis statement, do we have to like every time tell you, or do we have to like
yeah.
we only do it without telling you? Like
No.
that's my
Let me tell
question.
you why you need to tell me. I don't want to be surprised by something I did not approve. And the reason I ask to approve something is because I can foresee problems. I can tell you from the get-go what kind of problems will you face writing your thesis statement. And the reason I can foresee that is because I've been teaching this course for a long time, and as somebody who does research, I can tell you that this might be something that you might be problematic for you. So in order to help you avoid ditches, I need to okay it so that you do not fall flat on your faces later on in the semester. Um, and I feel responsible, personally responsible for you not falling in the ditch. So this is why I need to okay it. It's best that you let me know what your original research question is, how you want to change your thesis statement, and what your new thesis statement is, and I can tell you. And this is why I gave you a hard time writing your thesis statements. It's not because I just want to make you do busy work, or I just want to be mean, or none of that whatsoever. In fact, I'm actually on your side working with you in order to save you the hassle later on. It might be difficult for you to understand this at the time, or it was difficult for you to understand that at the time, but then later on, you will see that the clearer your thesis statement, the more defined it is, the easier it is to conduct research and to write your actual paper. So it might seem a little bit counterintuitive because we're used to professors, just like correcting us just to show that maybe they know better or whatever. I don't know about your experience. I mean, in my time, I had professors who just wanted to just like give bad grades just to show that they are all that amazing and impeccable in their fields. But this time it's, yes, flexing their mental muscles. But with me, I'm not trying to say I'm like better than people and holier than thou, but I'm just saying that I'm working with you in order to improve your writing skills. So this is why I give you such a hard time sometimes. I'm like, no, 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 don't do that, because it might be a problem for you later on. You will face a lot of trouble. And trust me, when your thesis statement is clear and concise and ordered well, you will have an easier time working on your paper and developing this thesis statement. Otherwise, you'll be all over the place. And what I'm trying to show you is not something that is rocket science. I'm trying to show you that through organizing your ideas one way, you can follow a particular formula and you can produce a written work that is up to your standards and the standards of what is required of you for that paper. Okay? Akram, you
Yes.
have some
Okay. Thank you.
comments. Nothing? That's it? Okay. So
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
good. Okay. So let's share this again and extend the session. Right. So the next step is writing an outline. And I know most of you are a little bit like iffy about it because you're used to writing an outline after you finished writing your paper. And it's not going to happen in this course because the purpose of the outline is to help you write your paper. So we're going to go with the proper steps, and we're going to go with how what is best, what will make your life easier. The one warning that I am going to give you is that this is going to be time consuming. You might think, okay, I was just writing an outline. It's not going to be that easy. It's going to take more time to write your outline than it will take to write your paper if you do it right. Now, the good news is that several people are working on this, so you can divide up the work and you can do a good job with it. But it's going to be time consuming, especially if you're still trying to think of the arguments that you're going to include. What I've done is I have created an outline template for you, which I'll talk about in a second. And I have created a YouTube video on how to write your outline, and you're going to be submitting your assignment here. So let's take a look at this outline document. So first of all, what I want you to do is I want you to read this as carefully as possible before you start your work. So, and this is what I explained in the video. Every single step, you're going to type your research question again because you need the reminder. You're going to type your thesis statement again because you need the reminder. And what I want you to then do, look and divide the support into separate parts. If you are unfamiliar with the Toulmin model argument, I want you to go back to the week where I explained Toulmin's model argument and rewatch that video, because that is a very important video for you to go over and revise. Granted, there are so many different ways to write an argument, but I find that Toulmin's helps you complicate an idea, complicated as in not like making it complicated as not difficult to understand, but rather um, uh, making it meaty, like delving deep into it. So there are so many different methods and approaches, but I find Toulmin to be um, helps you take your thinking to another level. It makes you think about your subject at a different level and more like in a deeper way. So once you've retyped your thesis, look at it and divide the support into separate parts and think which one. Remember, you have three. Most of you have three arguments in every single thesis statement. So which one do you want to include first? Which one do you want to include second? Which one do you want to include third? Because whatever you include first, the first part of the paper should correspond to that first idea in the thesis statement. So the way we order them in the thesis statement is the way we order them uh, vertically in the paper. So if you say, uh, you know, this caused that because of A, B, and C, when you start writing about them, you should write about A first and then B and then C. Are we clear on that? Okay. So you also have to pay attention that like an outline has three ways to be written. You can either follow plan A, or you can follow plan B, or you can follow plan C. Now, how do you decide which plan to follow? You decide based on the challenge level of your thesis statement. So if you think that your thesis or argument won't face plenty of resistance from your audience or readers, you should use plan A. If you think it's going to be argumentative, like challenging to accept, then you use plan B. If you think that there will be too many objections to your idea, then you use plan C. It depends on the level of argumentation of your thesis. Okay? If you are unsure how challenging it is, you can see how much research opposes it, or how much opposition you think you might get, or you can always ask me, or you can ask on the group, and then I will answer, and then other people can also answer you. Let's think, for example, of something that might be argumentative, but you won't face plenty of resistance. For example, maybe climate change. And the reason it might not face a lot of resistance is because people are just not really well informed or aware. And plus, it's not a crisis kind of thing for them. They don't notice what's going on. And you think to just like, they need to pay attention to this and do something about it. So you might use plan A. Something that would be moderately argumentative would be something like legalizing recreational marijuana or legalizing medical marijuana. That would be moderately argumentative if your audience is your age. Or maybe not. If your audience is your age, it might not be argumentative. But if your audience is my age, it might be moderately argumentative, where people are going to tell you, no, we're against this. And so you need to begin by telling people, we understand that you disagree with this, and then there are so many different bad things about it, but my argument is this, this, and that. And just for your information, in case you're wondering, I am against it. And I have my reasons. Plan C. I have a very good example for Plan C. Plan C would be something that is going to face so much resistance from your audience. Like, for example, getting the COVID vaccine. Because I'm sure you've all heard the arguments against getting the vaccine from so many different people, even those you would consider to be well informed and all. And I've heard so many doctors go on TV and talk against it and warn against it and etc. etc. And so you might want to use plan C because they're going to tell you, it's not safe. It was issued too fast. How could they come up with a vaccine so quickly? mRNA, is going to be like it's a new uh, method for developing vaccines and etc., and it hasn't been tested widely enough. So you have a ton of counter arguments, right? And then you decide, what? Yes, I'm going to take every single counter argument and argue against it. I'm going to explain to the people why. So when they tell me, for example, how could they come up with a vaccine so quickly? We say, well, technologies have changed, and now with the aid of computers and computer programs, we were able to expedite the process very, very quickly. You can have so much data calculated almost instantaneously. So computers have been able to help in this way. And then you say, if they say, for example, hasn't been tested enough, yeah, but we're developing a vaccine during a pandemic, so we have millions of people who are test subjects. Before it used to take so many years to test because we didn't have enough people to test it on. But nowadays it's a completely different case, and so on and so forth, right? And now some of you are probably thinking, oh, why didn't we choose that topic? No. Anyway, so after you've picked a plan, you're going to list your grounds and arguments as per your chosen plan. And please make sure you write these in short phrases and not full sentences. I'm not going to read an outline that has full sentences or paragraphs for every single idea. Just put them in bullet points, phrases. And then for every single argument, you list 3 supporting ideas that back up each of your arguments, following Tolman's model argument, and then backing examples, research. Whatever is missing, you put more research is required here or more to do here. And then the hindrances for number 6 for qualifications that you see or predict. And then you sum up your ideas in the conclusion. And then after that, you write your background information and significance, which you place right after the introduction, which is step 9. Don't worry about this. This is just in case people mess it up. Um, and of course, you 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 save it with your names or last names hyphen outline, etc. Now look what I have here for you. I have a template for an outline. Okay, this is a sample outline for a research paper on a controversial argumentative issue. So what do you do with this? What you do with this is you copy paste it into a new document. So you copy, I hope it allows me to share. Can you still see my blank document? I think you can. So you copy paste it into a new one and you start filling in the blanks. So you put your names, you change the date, you change the plan as per your plan. Careful, this is over here is your plan B. I've began with the counter argument. So what you need to do is change this as per your plan and then just fill in the blanks. So your introduction should have an attention getter, which is a question, some startling, interesting facts, statistics, etc. Definition of terms. So what are you talking about? So when you're saying, for example, uh, ammonium nitrate, you have to talk, what is ammonium nitrate? Like it's a very explosive, this and that used and this and that. The frame, but you don't say that the frame of your study is political or social. You can say the political ramifications of this study include A, B, and C, and then the importance of the issue. There are some information here that might be repetitive later on, but it's okay. Then you have some
Miss, sorry, I think your screen froze because you're moving your cursor, but it's not moving over words. Just like
okay,
a
I'm sorry.
blank
Yeah, it does that
space.
sometimes because I'm trying to stop that,
No
but
worries.
I have a habit of doing that. What do you see right now?
It's because we see your old one. The like we didn't see the new document. But I guess no.
You didn't see the new document? Let me
We're
share
we're, we're
again.
between two pages. We were in between two pages.
Okay, yalla, let's do that again. It's fine. I'll go back to the outline and share. We can work on that. Okay, can you see this right now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Before I carry on, so when you write this, make sure you put the title and then erase this. Put your research question, your thesis, and then we are here. Historical background means, like, for example, if you're talking about the negative effect of uh, microwaves, or if you're talking about, let's say, negative effects of microwaves, um, here you have to give me some information about microwaves. How were they discovered? Who was the first person to discover them? How did he discover them? He had, I think, a candy bar in his, like a chocolate bar in his pocket, and he worked for the army, and he got close to like a large microwave or like some processor, and the chocolate bar in his pocket melted, and so he developed them as domestic cookers for homes. And of course, he died of cancer because of the radiation. And then they made them a little bit safer. Anyway, if you're talking about, for example, COVID, give some information about COVID. Where did it begin? And when? What about the first cases, etc. If you're talking about the explosion, give some background information about what happened, etc., etc. Um, then, if you're using following plan B, you have to have the counter argument. If you're using plan A, the counter argument is all the way at the end. Uh, and if you are using plan A, put the thesis right behind or at the end of the introduction. Actually, let's see, where do we have it over here in Plan A? Yes, introduction thesis at the end of the introduction. It shouldn't be separate from the introduction, only in the outline we put it separately. Uh, Plan B, you have after the counter argument your thesis. Plan C, background information, thesis, counter argument, refutation argument, etc., etc. Okay, so once you have stated each argument, you need to find the supports. I suggest you do not go over this part before rewatching Toolman's model argument video because it's going to help you think about this differently. Um, the support for every single idea, and then connecting your support to the claim, and then providing facts and examples that support the warrant. It's very, very important that you think about it following Toolman's model argument because it'll enhance your thinking skills in a sense. Okay, and then you, after watching Toolman's model argument video, come back here and start working on these. They take some time to fill out, but I'm presuming, every single one of you can take a piece, but please make sure that you're checking with one another to make sure everything is comprehensive and strong. After that, for the qualification or assessment, you're going to assess the arguments in an objective manner. What are the difficulties that you have faced or expect to face while conducting the research? What are the limitations, etc., etc.? And then your conclusion. Again, I cannot stress enough. Please use phrases. Do not use full sentences. Do not use paragraphs. Okay? Otherwise, it's just um, it's unacceptable to just use paragraphs. It's like I'm correcting an entire essay. Why should I do that? That's number one. Number two, unless you see it at a from a macro perspective, you're not going to be able to shift ideas around and correct them and make sure that they are in the right place. Okay. If you just write and write and write and write, it might be difficult for you to just shred things to pieces and reassemble your paper. And this is why it's easier. This is why we go through an outline to the paper and not the other way around. Write a paper and then do the outline, which is the case with so many different students. I hear over the years, every single semester, that students are like surprised that they need to write an outline first. Okay, any questions about all of this? Hello, no questions?
Professor,
Yes.
I wanted to ask if the article that I chose was I can use like ideas from it that support both the argument and the counter argument. Can we
Yeah.
do that? So we can reference it in both.
You can reference it
So
in
there's no
so many
problem.
different
Okay.
places. It doesn't
Okay,
matter
good.
how much you take out from it because if it's a very good article, you might take out so much from it.
And for the limitations, are we going to talk about the problems we faced or problems we are going to face, if we wanted to do similar research?
It's either or, but it's you have so many different problems that um, might arise as you're conducting research, and it's very important to acknowledge them and to say, for example, we could not, for example, conduct a survey for lack of time. We couldn't do field studies or observe because of COVID. A library is closed, so there you go, another limitation. Or you can also talk about the limitations of your research in the sense that what does it not do that it can do? And then later on, we'll talk about how you can look forward to and recommend a different study or further studies, um, for the future, like in the future, people should study this and from this perspective or this area, etc. Okay.
Uh, and it should be in phrases كمان معاك.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Basically, you're just like stating the idea just to remind yourself of to write about it later on. So you're saying something in a phrase that you will expand later on. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. I'm going to stop